everybody. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate. So today is Christmas Eve and I thought I would make some videos as I prepare for our annual Feastivus. We're going to make a lot of food. So we're going to start with my grandmother's Icebox cheese torte recipe. This recipe has been handed down to me over several generations. I think I'm the fourth granddaughter or fourth generation to have this recipe. It's a bit time consuming to make, but it's a wonderful dessert. It's a huge dessert. So we're going to start out here. So first thing you want to do is make a graham cracker crust, and you can use a 10-inch springform pan if you like. I'm going to use a 13 by 9 dish instead. So to make your graham cracker crust, I have about 2 1/4 cups of graham cracker crumbs, 1/3 cup of sugar, and then we're going to add about 3/4 cup of melted butter and a pinch of salt. Now you can use salted butter if you'd like, and then you don't have to add the pinch of salt, or you could even use like crushed up pretzels. I like that salty sweet type of thing going on with my graham crusts or crumb crusts. So I already have the sugar and the crumbs in my bowl, and please ignore my horrible manicure. I have to do my nails later after I'm done cooking and working with my hands. But we're just going to mix the sugar with the crumbs really well, and we're going to reserve about 1/2 cup of the graham cracker crumbs to use as a topping before we put this in the refrigerator to chill overnight. Now, my grandmother used to put this in the freezer, but then she'd have to leave it out to thaw. So I just put this in the refrigerator overnight. And this is going to be a baked crust because when the sugar melts and caramelizes, it's what is going to hold this crust together. Okay, but the dessert itself is a no-bake dessert. Okay, so it looks like it's mixed pretty well. We're going to gradually add our melted butter. I'm not going to dump it all in at once because I don't want a super wet crust, but it's always best to err on the side of caution and melt a little bit too much butter rather than not enough. And I'm just gonna mix this really, really good. And I've already got my oven preheated to 350 because this is gonna bake at 350 for about 15 minutes. And you wanna make sure you put enough butter in here so that your crust doesn't burn. Graham cracker crusts can burn easily if you don't have enough sugar or butter. And I'm going to add a little bit more butter. Again, you don't want this to be too dry, nor do you want it to be too wet. Okay, I'm gonna add the rest of the butter because I want it. Because it's not as perfect as I want it to be yet. You want to mix it really, really good. Make sure all the dry stuff is covered in butter. Okay. looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm gonna reserve about half a cup of this to sprinkle on top of my cake. So there we go. I'm gonna set that aside. I've got my 13 by 9 pan. And we're gonna put the crust in here. Just spread it out with your spoon. Make sure you get in the corners. Okay, and I'm just gonna spread this out evenly before I press it into the pan here. Just kind of get it as even as you can. Okay. And with clean hands, or you could use like a piece of wax paper. I'm going to use my hands because that's just how I cook. You're going to go ahead and press this all the way down evenly into your pan. Try not to have any bare spots. Try to make this as even as possible. Okay. Perfect and beautiful. We're going to go ahead and put this in the oven for 15 minutes. Okay, next we're going to take half a cup of warm water and one packet of Knox unflavored gelatin. We're going to sprinkle this on top of the water and we're going to let this dissolve. Okay, this is going to go in towards the end, so I just want to sprinkle this on top. Let it dissolve. And then I'll stir it together, but I'm using lukewarm to very warm water, half a cup. Okay. So we're going to leave that sit until it looks like it's dissolving, and then we'll stir it up with a mini whisk. Of course, I got some on the stove. We'll wipe that off. I don't have the burner on at all, but we're going to be making a custard. Just wipe that up. I like to clean as I go. I'm going to set my gelatin aside. All right. Okay, so my gelatin has dissolved, but there was like a lump on the top. So what I did was I popped it in the microwave for about 20 seconds to make sure that there's no lumps or stringy thingies in our unflavored gelatin. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to set this aside to cool because we don't want to put warm or hot gelatin in our cheese and whipped cream mixture. Otherwise, everything will be melty and it won't be light and fluffy like we want it to be. Okay, next I have a double boiler starting here. I have this sitting over just a little bit above medium heat, and I put about, enough water to go about 1/3 of the way up the bottom of the base pot. And we're going to beat together 2 egg yolks. I'm going to beat them really, really good here. I apologize for the noise. Okay, my water isn't boiling yet. All right, and we're going to add half a cup of milk. Use whatever milk you like, but it needs to be dairy because nut milks will not thicken. This is a true custard. And then you're going to add a cup of sugar. Now, this seems like a lot of sugar, but we're also going to be using a pint of heavy whipping cream and a pound of baker's cheese. And you're going to cook this on your double boiler until it's thick. Okay, and when it thickens, we're going to add some other goodies to this custard. We're also going to add half a teaspoon of salt to our custard mixture. I believe this is a half a teaspoon. One moment. Almost use a teaspoon. These are very old measuring spoons. All right, so throw that in there. Stir that up. And then we're gonna whisk this because we want to make sure our sugar is dissolved as this is cooking. This needs to come up to a simmer and it needs to get really, really thick. I've also added about 2 tablespoons of fresh squeezed lemon juice and about a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of lemon zest, or you could use a teaspoon of dried lemon peel. It's just gonna give it some flavor. The original recipe calls for a can of drained and crushed pineapple, but my kids don't like that. They like more of a creamier texture to this dessert. So I like to just make it a little lemony, and it also cuts some of the richness and sweetness of the cream, the cheese, and the custard. Okay, as you can tell, our water is boiling pretty good here underneath our lemon custard, and I'm just stirring occasionally here, but we want this to get thick so that when I put a spoon in here, it completely coats the spoon. So we're just going to keep stirring this gently. Okay, letting it get nice and thick. Okay, we can tell our custard is just about done because it's actually starting to stick to the beaters. When I stir it in the pot, it's coming up the side and sticking to the side. And when I put a teaspoon in, it coats both sides of the spoon. So this is done. So we're going to take it off the heat and we're going to scrape this into a very large bowl and we're going to let this cool. Got my big huge bowl here because you're going to be adding other stuff to this custard later on when this is all cooled off. Okay, so here is our cooled custard. I did cheat and put this in the refrigerator to speed things up a little bit, but I kept stirring it so it doesn't get a skin on the top. So we're going to add our gelatin and our baker's cheese. Now, if you don't know what baker's cheese is, it's basically a dry type of cottage cheese. You can make your own because honestly, this is really hard to find. I'm lucky to live in Milwaukee with a large Polish population, and our local cheese shop can get this from a creamery out in Vermont by way of Chicago, Illinois. So, but this used to be very common to find in the grocery store over by the cottage cheese, the ricotta cheese, when I was a kid growing up. Now, you can make your own. You could just take a pound of cottage cheese, blend it in a food processor until all the lumps are gone, and then strain this over a bowl with some cheesecloth and until it's dry, and you want to make sure that it's not liquidy. But this is what it looks like. This is a pound, so I'm going to go ahead and add this right to my bowl. It's very, very stiff. And before I add my gelatin, I'm going to beat the cheese and the custard together with an electric mixer. Now, I do have a stand mixer, but I have to use that for the whipped cream. So we're just going to set that aside. We're going to beat the cheese with our custard, starting out on low speed so we don't make a mess in the kitchen. And you want to make sure you use a good quality, heavy-duty hand mixer. This one rhymes with witch and aid. Because, hey, I am not getting paid to promote their products, but I like me some good bitch and aid, witch and aid kitchen equipment. I'm going to just increase the speed on this. I'm going to whip the custard, blend it really good into the baker's cheese. Okay, now while this is mixing, I'm going to gradually add my gelatin. Now my gelatin did set up while I was waiting for the custard to get cool. So to liquefy or re-liquefy your gelatin, if it started setting up, just put it in the microwave for 10 seconds on high, and then mix it up really, really good. But we're going to gradually add in this gelatin and mix it really, really good, because it's going into cold filling, and it tends to set up, and we don't want any lumps of gelatin in here. So you just mix it really, really good on high. Get around the sides of the bowl. Okay, we're going to add some more. This is why I go to the gym. Work on your upper body strength, because this is some very thick filling. It'll loosen up a little bit and be lighter and fluffier once we add the whipped cream / egg white meringue mixture. Now, we'll talk about egg whites in a little bit here. Again, this is a very old recipe. It probably goes back to when refrigerators, freezers became more commonplace in American households, probably around the 1930s, 1940s. And it's a very, very time-consuming recipe, I'm not going to lie. If I wasn't filming each step, this would probably take me at least an hour to an hour and a half prep time. That doesn't include refrigerating the dessert or freezing it overnight. I'm going to add some more of that gelatin. Again, I'm just doing a little bit at a time, making sure it's well blended. I've got my hand mixer on high. Now, if you're lucky and you have an extra mixer bowl for your stand mixer, you could certainly do that, but we have to beat the whipped cream separately. Alright, I'm going to add the last bit of my unflavored gelatin to my cheese mixture. And I'm going to stop a second. I'm going to scrape down the side of my bowl real quick here. Make sure everything is incorporated really good. And I'm going to keep mixing this really good, because this is going to have a really silky, creamy texture to it. It's very decadent. This is something that Grandma used to make only for special occasions, usually Christmas and Easter. Grew up Catholic, although I consider myself spiritual and not religious. Alright, so we're going to just set this aside. And I'm going to switch this out. We're going to bring the stand mixer over. We're going to whip up our cream. Okay, I've had my bowl and the beater in the freezer for the last few hours. It is super cold, and I have my ice cold heavy whipping cream, and we want to give this a good shake. This is a whole pint, but it has to be heavy whipping cream. And make sure again that your beaters and your bowl is freezing cold, and we're going to pour this in here. Now the original recipe calls for 2 beaten egg whites, and for the sake of food safety, I don't want to use raw egg white in this, so I'm going to put in about a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of meringue powder. And you can get this at any baking supply store. This particular brand is well known. Rhymes with Stilton. But I got this at Michael's craft store, actually. So we're going to put about, let's do, because 2 teaspoons, I believe, is, let's see, what does it say on here? 2 teaspoons with 2 tablespoons of water is 1 egg white. So we're going to use 1.5 tablespoons of the meringue powder to 1 pint of whipping cream. Okay, we're going to whip that all together. Okay. Right, so let me attach my freezing cold beater here. Bear with me, folks. All right, let me just move this away from the butcher block so I can raise up the bowl, and then we're going to start out on lower speed. We're going to gradually and quickly increase the speed, and we're going to whip this till it's nice and stiff. Don't have it up all the way. I think I have this set up on level 7. It's already starting to get nice and thick, so I'm going to crank it all the way up. Gradually, again, you don't want to make a huge mess in your kitchen. We got it full throttle here, guys. I ain't playing around. I do not have time to be waiting here. I've got other stuff to cook for tomorrow yet. Try to get all my stuff prepped the day before so that I can get all dolled up and relax with my kids and not have to be doing a bunch of stuff at the last minute. So you can see this is getting nice and thick already. The meringue powder definitely helps stiffen things up. We want this to be nice and stiff. Okay, and we'll stop a minute and scrape down the sides of the bowl. So I'm going to go ahead and scrape this down a bit. Make sure everything is incorporated. And we're going to keep beating. It's not as stiff as I would like this to be yet. Oh, that's nice and stiff. So it should be really stiff. Tastes good. It's not butter, so that's good. You don't want to beat it until you have butter, that's for sure. All right, so let's take this off. If my kids were here, they would be fighting to lick the beaters, but I get it all to myself. Sorry guys, I'm licking the beater. Because I can. All right, so we're gonna switch out this mixer and bring back our other bowl of filling. With the hand mixer. All right, guys, let me plug this back in. Now, you're supposed to fold the whipped cream into the cheese mixture. However, not everyone is an expert at folding. I can do it, but I like to use a hand mixer on the lowest setting to mix the cheese with the whipped cream. But before we do that, we're going to add half a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. I'm using this particular one, which is a double strength vanilla extract. So we're going to put a little bit of that in there. And then I'm going to use a little bit of this lemon extract. It's natural. You can also find this at the grocery store. We're going to put in, I'm going to do a 1/4 teaspoon because this stuff is pretty strong. It's pretty concentrated. And we want it to be subtle. Again, we want the cheese flavor to shine. So just a little bit of that. We're going to mix that together, and then we're going to gently fold in the whipped cream and meringue mixture. Sorry, this mixer is a little funky. Let's see. We put flavoring into the cheese mixture. Just a 1/4 teaspoon of that, and this smells pretty lemony, in addition to the lemon juice and lemon zest that we added into the custard while it was on the double boiler. Okay, I think that's good. So now we're going to gradually fold in whipped cream mixture here because we don't want to lose the volume, so we're just going to do a little bit at a time. So maybe put, I don't know, maybe about half of it in. And you want to work quickly because, again, you want everything to be nice and cold. And I'm just going to put this on low. And we're just going to gently stir this around. I'm kind of going in a figure 8 pattern here in my bowl. Just stirring everything up. Really gently. Alright, then we're going to add some more cream. And I will put the written recipe in the comments later on. I'm not going to have time to do it right away because I'm going to be coming back with another video once we get this in the fridge, and we're going to start our cheesy hash brown casserole, also known as funeral potatoes. Alright, so we're going to beat the rest of this in, stir it, I mean, fold it, whatever. Into the cheese. I'm doing this very gently. But we want the cream and the cheese to be mixed together pretty good. And you can fold this by hand as well if you feel comfortable doing that. But I think the hand mixer on the lowest setting does a great job. I think this is good. Just getting the excess off the beaters. All right. All right, and then we're going to put this into our cooled crust that I have set aside. Okay, so here is our completely cooled graham cracker crust, and we're going to go ahead and spread this into our pan here on top of this cooled crust. A ginormous rubber spatula is perfect for this job. So get all of that in there. And I did lick the beaters, and this filling is perfect. It's not too sweet, it's not too lemony, it's just very silky, light. It's absolutely divine. I'm just going to gently spread this over the crust. I don't want to press too hard, but I want to get in the corners. Corner here. All right. Now you can get a little fancy if you like and just make like cute little swirls. But it's going to be covered up with the reserved graham crumbs, and I'm going to make it look festive. We're going to decorate with some red and green maraschino cherries. All right, there we go. I just don't like wasting anything. All right, so now we're going to sprinkle, wow, these really got set. Let me grab a small spoon. Sorry, I'm trashing the place here. All right, we're just gonna sprinkle some of these graham crumbs that we reserved when it's the crust with the sugar and the butter, and a little bit of a pinch of sea salt in there. That salty, sweet crunch here. And my butter has set up, so the crust kind of set up without having me baking it, so just want to break up any large chunks. Although some people like the large chunks of graham cracker crust. I know I do. My kids go crazy over this dessert. Now you can use cinnamon graham cracker crumbs too if you'd like. Use whatever you've got on hand. All right, so there's, I mean, that looks pretty damn good so far, but oh, we're not done. We've got some beautiful red and green maraschino cherries here. So I'm gonna make some cute little holly berry things. So just kind of push that in there, and we'll alternate. So maybe we'll do 2 red ones over here with green. And this is, I don't know, I like to serve big pieces of this, so this could make 8 to 10 big pieces of dessert. We'll make this look all pretty. I'm kind of hoping I'll have some maraschino cherries left over for my hot fudge sundae. Oops, went want that one there. I saved the jars and the juice. All right, now if you use a round springform pan, you could, make your design around the edges and in the center of the dessert, but I'm using 13 by 9. Absolutely lovely. And this is going to be refrigerated overnight. After it's chilled a little bit, go ahead, if you want to throw a lid on it, you may do that, but this has to chill overnight to set up. Okay. So that is Grandma's Icebox cheese tort. Again, I'll put the recipe down in the comments later on. Thanks for watching.